Nigeria will dominate most teams. John Obi Mikel will see lots of the ball.
Who's in a promising area, and his ball in was almost met by Ahmed Musa. There's still a few challenges flying in there. Iceland just about getting their defence back organised. Ido waiting to pick the pass. He's got 4 men in there. Curls in a decent-looking ball, headed away by Ragnar Sigurdsson. And Victor Moses will pick things up on the right wing for Nigeria. Cheeky flick forwards into the box by Victor Moses.
Need to move the ball a lot more quickly, Nigeria. Once Iceland gets so many blue shirts behind the ball, then it's very difficult actually to get around the back of them and swing the ball or drive the ball into the box. When defenders going backwards towards their own goal on the half turn, always more likely to send it goalwards. Could be an own goal, could be anything, but Nigeria just a little bit slow with the way they address things in the final third at the moment.
Victor Moses takes a throw for Nigeria about 30 yards from goal as they look at it, and he's managed to prize another throw out of Iceland.
Use your speed ball. Usually, it's only have to use the speed ball, not actually running with the ball, but actually the way they can shift the ball when the tempo is really good for Nigeria. At the moment, that's the only way really to get this Icelandic defence on the back foot.
Throw is going to be taken by Wilfred Ndidi. And again, he's going to get good distance on that, but towards the 6-yard box, there wasn't a fellow green and white shirt in a good area. Indeed, he gets onto the clearance, though, and whips in another ball. Again, the quality was lacking, though.
Yeah, not only that, it's, it's from 20 yards, from the goal line, unless you really get to that byline. And defenders can see the whole, they actually get themselves on a half turn, see all the play, see the ball as well, and defend it pretty well. And Iceland do that as well as any team in the tournament.
Iceland playing their way out from the back nicely, and Alfred Finnbogason, who's scored in all of his last 3 appearances for Iceland, was in a promising position, but deep in his own half is dispossessed, and John Obi Mikel has it for Nigeria now. Early pass forwards, again though, comes to nothing, and neither team really showing too much composure or quality on the ball at the moment. And there was the theory coming into this that with both sides normally adopting quite defensive and stoic approaches to games, that they might struggle to get themselves on the front foot, and indeed that Iceland might struggle with the tag that they've adopted for this particular game of being the favourites.
Yes, there'll also be that little bit of fear as well, that Iceland, to start with in a very good position, 1 point already. If they take one more now and go into the final game against Croatia, that extra point in itself, could be enough to see them through to the next phase of 3 points. And Nigeria, it's not quite do or die. 1 point will still keep them in the game.
Victor Moses on the surge on the right wing, but put too much on it for Ahmed Musa, who was loitering towards the edge of the penalty area, and Iceland able to come away with it. They have it on the left wing with Bjarnason, who goes backwards of square to Magnusson. His floated pass forwards picked up by Bodvarsson, but
what every nation will like, Mark, is to go into the last group game still with a chance of going through, and so both these nations will be hoping that come the end of 90+ minutes that is still the case for the two of them. But that caution, as you mentioned, can lead to a slightly dull game. It's not been dull so far, just both sides are able really to click in the final third.
Into the 19th minute, and it's still Nigeria 0, Iceland 0, a game that has not just massive connotations for these two nations, but also Argentina, who will be watching on with much interest and a fair degree of nerves as well. The final group games are on Tuesday the 26th at 7 o'clock UK time. Sigurdsson has it about 10 or so yards from his own goal and is able to just dribble forwards. Gylfi Sigurdsson over the halfway line. Early pass forwards is a good one. Gislason has it just outside the Nigeria box.
There's only one person, if you were going to pick either one player from both 11s who's got the class, given the time to be able to find the opposition, is Gylfi Sigurdsson. Lovely piece of skill, just shepherding the ball from Adenoko Etebo and then dragging it back and then finding a nice pass as well. And give him a chance of staying in this game, Nigeria. Make sure that he doesn't have too much time on the ball.
It's going to be another long throw from Aaron Gunnarsson, and again they will know that Nigeria have a bit of a soft centre when it comes to defending set pieces. This is hurled towards the penalty spot area, well defended by Balogun though, and second bite of the cherry, it's whipped in and only tiptoe away as far as Bjarnason, arriving late in the day by Francis Azoho. and there's going to be a stoppage here as Iceland await to take the corner.
Victor Moses has taken one in the ribs for the team. Rizzo went towards the near post, that cross on the right side. Just got caught underneath it a little bit and just palmed it towards the far post, well, beyond the far post. Good knuckles in the end, just did enough.
Yeah, Victor Moses just winded as much as anything by the force of the hit from Birkir Bjarnason. And he's up and able to go, and with 21 minutes on the clock and the score still goalless, Gylfi Sigurdsson will take this corner and whip it in right-footed. The keeper's come a long way and has only managed to slap it onto the face of Victor Moses, and it goes behind for another Iceland corner.
He did enough. I think that's good goalkeeping, actually. Any ball that is within range, come and really remind these Icelandic players that he's there to dominate the area. And he ended inadvertently that touch with the palm onto the face of Victor Moses out for another corner. The same with the long throws as well. As long as the ball is not too flat, if it's a loopy throw in, then he's got to come and claim it if possible.
Sigurdsson will deliver once again. Gylfi Sigurdsson, the key man for Iceland, only missed a minute during their qualifying campaign, and it goes from the Everton man, and it's headed away well by Leon Balogun.
It's a good test for Nigeria at the moment. Iceland are dominating proceedings, a couple of corners, some throw-ins.
And Gylfi Sigurdsson with a good piece of work out on the right-hand side, releasing the run of Rurik Gislason. And eventually Gislason dispossessed, but he's won it back on the right side of the pitch, deep in Nigerian territory. But a foul just shy of the halfway line committed by Horde Magnusson has given Nigeria possession, and perhaps just a chance to reassemble after a bit of a head of steam was built up by Iceland.
Yeah, nice set, if you like, you know, of corners and free kicks and a little bit of possession from Iceland, but that's good for Nigeria to be able to repel those attacks. Will give that back three in particular and the goalkeeper just a little bit more confidence, and of course that will translate further forward to the field and try and get the passing going from the Super Eagles.
Midway through the first half in this Group D encounter in Volgograd, Nigeria 0, Iceland 0. Iceland with the better opportunities. Two efforts from Gylfi Sigurdsson, saved by Francis Uzoho in the Nigeria goal. But it's a game that is yet to really catch fire. Forwards towards halfway for Nigeria, but Iheanacho unable to make anything of it. Ragnar Sigurdsson in the right place for Iceland, and now back to Horde Magnusson, left-back position, tries to dribble out from the back and then decides to knock it backwards towards Kari Arnason, who goes route one, and there's a foul that has gone Iceland's way after the challenge from Umeruo.
He just mistimed his jump. Over the back, the officials here, certainly the referee saw it. Nice to get the free kick.
So it's going to be a free kick about 15 or so yards into the Nigeria half, and again Gylfi Sigurdsson will be the man to deliver it. So far Nigeria have looked a bit better in terms of defending set pieces than they did against Croatia. Sigurdsson with this latest one, which is towards the penalty spot region. Again, Nigeria...
It's testing, isn't it? Even from 40 yards away, Sigurdsson can put lots of bend and whip on that ball, and it becomes a goal-scoring opportunity if somebody can just make a run across the face of one of the Nigerian defenders. Cannot relax for one moment when he's on the ball from that kind of range.
It's the vice of former Nigeria international Efen Akuku on 5 Live and across Africa on the World Service. Let's just head across to Royal Ascot and get the result of the Coronation Stakes from John Hunt.
Mark, trainer Jessica Harrington has won all of the big prizes in jump racing. She has just won the Coronation Stakes with her wonderful filly Alpha Centauri. She had earlier won the Irish Guineas at the Curragh 3 weeks ago. Here she has been the most impressive winner of the week so far, winning by 6 lengths. She was the 11-4 favourite, beating Threading at 7-1 and Frankie Dettori's Mount Voracious at 14-1 in 3rd place.
Thanks very much, John. Ahmed Musa has been galloping away on the left-hand side and whipping in a ball towards the 6-yard box, which Iceland are able to defend. John Obi Mikel tosses it into the centre again, but that should be easy enough for Rurik Gislason.
It wasn't a bad ball, actually, from John Obi Mikel. Just clips it to always look at where the ball bounces, just right on that angle of the 6-yard box. Gunnar Rowe looking a little bit frustrated early on. Nigeria not been able to fashion one opportunity. 25 plus minutes played. I've got no truck at all with the way that Iceland plays. These group of players play. They know their job, as I mentioned earlier. Very similar to the Republic of Ireland, if you like. A couple of World Cups in the late 90s, early 90s. Functional team, but one or two players who can just make a little bit of a difference, given the opportunity to create stuff. But all happy to do the jobs that have been designated by the coach. And so far for them, so good. 2 tournaments.
Nigeria 0, Iceland 0, with 26 minutes played in Volgograd. The final games in this group on Tuesday the 26th of June at 7 o'clock UK time. Iceland against Croatia in Rostov. Iceland beat Croatia en route to topping their qualifying group, so they've got that in the bank already. Nigeria up against Argentina in St. Petersburg, and Nigeria did see off Argentina in a friendly in November. There was no Lionel Messi in that game, but so far Messi hasn't made much of an impact in the tournament. Throw for Iceland halfway inside Nigeria territory, floated forwards from the deck by Gunnarsson, asking quite a lot of Bodvarsson to do anything with the Reading striker, and it comes through harmlessly enough to Francis Azoho in the Nigerian goal. Azoho will just drop the ball at his feet and then send it long upfield towards Kelechi Iheanacho and Musa, both in the side today, but struggling to make any real impact so far.
Yeah, Nigeria not seeing enough of the ball in the final third, and it's on occasions like this where I certainly thought today there was a great opportunity to play Simeon Wankwa, the big striker from Crotone, all 6'5.5" or 6'6" of him, just to give Iceland maybe a little bit of a taste of medicine. Certainly will be effective in the final third, attacking any kind of set pieces or some good crosses that have come in from Nigeria so far. Nobody really, Iheanacho and Musa, able to deal with that kind of service.
John Obi Mikel on the ball at the moment says he's under a bit of extra pressure to do well because he's got a Russian wife, so there'd be some comments coming his way if Nigeria flopped at the tournament, given that it's obviously being played in his wife's homeland. Deep inside Nigeria territory at the moment, and it's another long hopeful pass over the top, and it's a pretty woeful one as well that Victor Moses had absolutely no hope whatsoever of getting on the end of, and it harmlessly drifts behind.
Yeah, wasted really. Just a little bit of frustration. John Obi Mikel, as you said, is playing just that little bit more deeper, a role that he's certainly used to playing for Chelsea for many years. I think he always feels the weight on his shoulder more so than most of the other players. Wearing that number 10 as well doesn't help. That role has been designed for him to be the creator, and he said he has worked at qualifying level, qualifying stages for the World Cup, or indeed Africa Cup of Nations. But you've got to do it against better players, more aware defenders, and then it becomes a little bit more difficult for him. But Nigeria, we don't have a number 10. There's no magical player on the continent right now. That ability to open up defences is missing from the continent's football. So it's been a tough World Cup so far for Nigeria, for African nations. Only Senegal look as if they can cause any kind of damage.
Senegal were the last nation to avoid defeat in both of their first 2 World Cup games in their first ever tournament. Iceland can obviously match that feat if they come away with a point or better from this one. And again, frustration for Nigeria and for Effen as another long crossfield pass comes to nothing.
Easy defending. If you're playing that diagonal from left to right or right to left, 30-40 yards, and Iceland are not able to defend it, they'd be extremely disappointed with that. They don't have enough physical players, tall players, to really make that kind of ball work.
Good pressing and harrying from Bodvarsson has won things back for Iceland halfway into Nigerian territory. Now on the overlap, Sævarsson is coming forwards for Iceland. He offloads to Rurik Gislason, and this time it's a fairly hopeless pump forwards from Iceland, and Gunnarsson goes down far too easily after jostling with Etebo in the centre of the field. It's drilled towards Iheanacho, and Iheanacho goes down fairly easily, but has done enough to win the free kick out of Matthew Conga, the referee.
Yeah, there's great skill. He just sucked in Sigurdsson, flicked the ball around him with the outside of his foot, and one way and then moved the other way. Well, one free kick by Nigeria. Just a little bit of time. And I think as well, Nigeria should just push up that back three, squeeze the play a little bit more. Iceland don't have any speedy players in their front line. If those three defenders can't trust themselves to recover the situation from just inside their own half, and then I think there's really something wrong. Force Iceland into playing a long ball in behind them, then the goalkeeper can start the play again.
Etebo will take the free kick for Nigeria, central position, and too much on it for the arriving Omeruo, who is unable to do anything with it. And once again, we've said it so many times, it's a long ball that harmlessly drifts behind for an Iceland goal kick.
And it's same for one player as well, so if it's not right on the money, the pass and the run doesn't match the pass, then you've got no chance of scoring. Just make a little bit more centrally, change the angle of the free kick, push it wide and then put the cross in. At the moment, Iceland are not being forced to take too many passes in the middle of the park. Nigeria, I think, is superior individually in terms of ball retention, but unless you can win the ball back further up, I feel like most modern clubs right now, then it's so much harder to build up from the back all the time.
31.5 minutes on the clock. Nigeria 0, Iceland 0 here on 5 Live and the World Service across Africa. And it's been a very cagey affair so far between two sides who do struggle for goals. And goalmouth action has been at a premium so far in Volgograd. Nigeria just shy of the halfway line with Balogun, square to Trusticon. And now the third centre-back in that trio of Omeruo. Knocked forwards now for the run of Wilfred Ndidi, who's made up a bit of ground, fired into Ahmed Musa, 15 yards from the edge of the penalty area, but he's wasteful in possession and then nudges over Gylfi Sigurdsson to concede a cheap free kick.
I thought he did well to actually get his body across Sigurdsson after being dispossessed. If he didn't agree with me, well, maybe slightly in the back. Seen the replay once again. It's good play from Sigurdsson. I wouldn't want to see him running 11 kilometres of this match and not actually being productive in the final third if I was an Iceland fan.
Free kick again is wasteful. The delivery from both teams has been poor, easily cut out in the left-back area by Brian Ado for Nigeria to concede a throw, though, which Iceland normally use as a weapon, and a long throw for Gunnarsson. It's taken short this time by Sævarsson. And on the move again here, Sævarsson, then on the edge of the area, goes down after a couple of cartwheels, but to be fair to him, didn't look across to the referee looking for anything in particular. Knew that there was no foul there as Aron Gunnarsson wins it back, and Sævarsson for Iceland as well. Victor Moses back defending as it's lofted into the penalty area, and the first time hit comes in from Birgir Bjarnason, well over the top of the crossbar, but half a sight of goal there for Bjarnason.
Not an easy skill to execute. That ball is looping down. Wasn't able to be patient and wait for it to really drop. In the end, doesn't trouble anybody. Nice and competitive on the far side. As you said, Sævarsson wasn't looking for anything. It's a good challenge. He went down, but he certainly didn't dive. And you've got to quickly trying to retrieve the ball once again. Despite we've seen a replay of Gunnar Rohr complaining that that was a dive. He's looking for someone to be yellow carded, but he's almost as far away from me as we are.
Just a touch over 10 minutes left to play in the first half. Nigeria 0, Iceland 0 in this Group D game. Earlier on, we brought you commentary of Brazil against Costa Rica, a late victory for Brazil in that one. And the other game in that group is coming up at 7 o'clock. Full commentary of Serbia against Switzerland with Alistair Bruce-Ball and Phil Neville. Don't forget as well that the World Cup Daily podcast is available every day for you. It's still neck and neck with Love Island at the top of the podcast charts. I'm sure that Effen's probably keeping Love Island up towards the top end of the rankings. Today's episode featured an unhappy Pablo Zabaleta, and you can hear that new and fresh every morning via your usual podcast providers. 0-0 in this one.
Unhappy is not the way I would describe Pablo Zabaleta last night. Something a lot stronger than that.
Disconsolate and dishevelled from what I saw of the coverage. Plenty of space now on the right-hand side for Saivarsson to exploit. Goes for the early cross, which is dangerous, and arriving at the far post was Birkir Bjarnason. Couldn't quite sort his feet out, though, and the ball just sweeps away and out for a throw to Nigeria. In fact, it got a touch, just a small touch, of Leon Balogun. It's a very good header from him, which took it out of the run of both Bjarnason and Bovarsson, who were both arriving and looking to get on the end of it. So it will be a throw for Iceland on the left side. And again, it's going to be a long one. This time, Hoda Magnusson hurls it in, and Nigeria do well to defend it once again. And if there's one positive they can perhaps take from the first half so far, it's that they've been able to defend those better.
Every single set piece, whether it's been a corner, free kick or throw-in, so far there's been a green and white head that has been, shirt I should say, that's been on top of it, and defended the second ball as well, which is so important. So far, certainly whatever work they've done on the training ground is paying dividends. And these games, Mark, which you've got two evenly matched sides, both close in the group, one with 1 point, one with 0 at the moment. They are very much an exercise in concentration, because you know that one error, no matter how far up the field, sometimes it could be the wrong pass taken when you're actually attacking. Suddenly the other team goes down and counter-attack and scores. Can and very often is the difference between you winning and losing the match.
Free kick in a good area for Nigeria now, after a long ball over the top towards the right side as Nigeria looked at it. Ended with Hoda Magnusson just shoving Victor Moses in the back. It was a needless foul, really, and it was right under the nose of the assistant referee, so it was always going to be given.
It was just a little touch, and Victor Moses is not shy in going down when he's touched slightly. He spent so much time on the floor against Argentina. It was quite embarrassing in the end, but certainly the pass move was brilliant. Just gave him the opportunity to get onto it, and that forced the defender into that slight error.
Kelechi Iheanacho is stood over the ball. The Leicester City man is going to whip this one in left-footed. It's a roundabout level with the edge of the penalty area, but tight to the right touchline. So Iheanacho over it. What can he deliver? It's a poor ball, but he's got a corner out of it. Didn't clear the first man, but Saivarsson has sent it behind, so Nigeria will have another set piece in the shape of a corner kick, and they'll be hoping the delivery is going to be better. It won't be taken by Iheanacho. Ahmed Musa, another Leicester City man, although he spent the majority of last season out on loan, will take it. In fact, it looked like it had gone for a corner. It will be a throw instead. Low and flat from Ahmed Musa, headed away as far as Moses, who sent it towards Musa on this right-hand side. Takes a touch to steady himself before sending a deep cross in, and it's too deep for anyone and drifts behind for a goal kick.
Yeah, once again, the set piece wasn't good. Musa has come over to take one or two long throw-ins. They've not been of good standard so far, and Iceland defending it well at the near post. And he swings the ball back in, and the closest to it, John Obi Mikel, not noted for his heading. Frustrating at the moment, I'm sure, for both coaches. They would like to see one or two chances created, apart from a couple actually from Iceland. That free kick from Gylfi Sigurdsson, well saved from Francis Uzoho, and then the chance that Sigurdsson spurned on his right, on his left foot, went on his right. Apart from that, we've not seen either goalkeeper had to work at all.
It's the voice of former Nigeria international Efen Okoku. We'll hear from Peter Odemwingie during half-time as well. Goalless between Nigeria and Iceland, with a touch over 6 minutes of normal time to play in the first half, as Victor Moses survives a cliff on the back of his heels to make some inroads and offload the ball to just outside the area, and Ahmed Musa now floated into the box by Ndidi, but straight down the throat of Hannes Haldorsen, who's able to make a very easy gather. And once again, it is very, very wasteful from the not-so-super Eagles.
Well, I'm shaking my head. You can just see me at the moment, Mark, can you? I'm just so disappointed with the final ball almost every time. Actually, both sides get into close proximity of the opposition penalty area.
Victor Moses on halfway, thought about sending another long ball forwards, decided against it and goes short to Wilfred Ndidi, who is on the halfway line. Short stab pass to John Obi Mikel, who's now offloaded to Etobo, and he goes wide to the left-hand side, and Omeruo all a bit laboured in the heart of midfield at the moment, and it's another misplaced pass from John Obi Mikel, which has given the impetus to Iceland. And Rurik Gislason on the right wing for them at the moment, plays it infield. Heavy touch from Alfred from Bogerson, and the offside flag is up against Ahmed Musa after a quick ball forwards towards him, and it will be a free kick for Iceland just inside their own half.
Well, that was tight. We've seen the replay. Looked onside, actually, Iheanacho when he received that ball. Sorry, Musa. Just waiting for that mistake, that error, really, sometimes to open up the game. We saw it last night, Argentina against Croatia. Willy Caballero trying to cheekily clip the ball over Rebic, and he got punished for it.
Good header down by Bodvarsson and blasted across goal by Bjarnason, but there was nobody in a blue shirt arriving. Gislason has kept it alive for Iceland, out on the right-hand side. Goes backwards to Sævarsson. Infield to Gylfi Sigurdsson. About 5 yards outside the penalty area, got away from the challenge of Ndidi, but then run into traffic, and Nigeria have it back with Iheanacho, who's now on the halfway line for Nigeria. Again, nobody giving him an option, and Iceland with good organisation, as we've been accustomed to seeing from them, and plenty of men back behind the ball, and Nigeria have to start again.
They've been forced to be patient. There's not enough drive in the final third, and lots of blue shirts get behind the ball very, very quickly.
Goalless between Nigeria and Iceland, with 3.5 minutes of the first half to play here on 5 Live and the World Service across Africa on the BBC. It's a game that has so much riding on it, and you wonder if that is what has contributed to the cagey nature of it. Slightly better pass forwards for Ahmed Musa to chase on this occasion, but he's been a bit too robust in the challenge on Hannes Halldórsson and has nudged over the Icelandic goalkeeper, so it will be a free kick pretty much from on the byline.
It wasn't a bad ball actually from John Obi Mikel. He just slightly overhit. He actually turned his body the wrong way, did Ahmed Musa. Didn't see the ball quickly enough. He's speedy. It would have been tough for him to get onto the end of it anyway. But at least John Obi Mikel was looking forward, and his first thought was to try and find one of his strikers.
Iheanacho, about 10 yards outside the area, has sent it wide to Victor Moses. His first time cross in, takes a deflection of Horda Magnusson, so it will be a Nigeria corner with a couple of minutes left to play in this first half. And can they force their first effort on target of the game from it, because Hannes Halldórsson hasn't had a save to make as of yet.
I think we're due on, nearly 43 minutes played. Got to beat that first man, however, on the near post. Or at least, even if he doesn't beat them, force him to head it back for another corner. Don't allow him to head it for 20, 30 yards.
It's Kelechi Iheanacho to take, and it's another very, very poor delivery over everyone, and curls behind for a goal kick.
He beats everybody this time, first and the last man. It's a disconsolate Nigerian fans we're seeing in the stadium at the moment. One guy's almost fallen asleep, isn't he?
Can't really blame him, I have to say. It's not been riveting fare so far, but you would have thought that both sides in the second half will know that the 3 points are there for the taking, and what a huge step that could be towards a place in the last 16 if they were able to push on. But you do get the feeling, as Efan was saying, it could come down to a mistake rather than a moment of brilliance, given what we have seen so far. There's a foul out on the right-hand side on Bodvarsson, the Reading striker, just clipped by Brian Adowu, who can't believe the decision from Matthew Conga, but having seen the replay, he didn't get any of the ball and did get a lot of Jon Bodvarsson.
Yeah, his trailing leg, the right foot, just stuck it out behind, cleverly trying to disguise that to the referee. Thought it was slightly harsh to begin with, but I think the right decision has been made.
Well, it's been yellow carded, and I thought it was a foul, but I'm not sure it perhaps merited a caution.
As your first offence, yeah, probably not, but I think the referee sensed actually that Iceland were heading towards goal, so I don't have too many complaints about that card. Girl, I think, knew what he was doing.
Well, we are into the final minute of normal time in the first half. Still goalless between Nigeria and Iceland, but Gylfi Sigurdsson is over this free kick on the right side. It's close to the touchline. It's about 40 yards out from goal. What's his delivery going to be like here? He's got 6 blue shirts in and around the Nigeria penalty area to aim for. It's a good whip delivery and just goes past all of them and behind for a goal kick. And plenty of the Icelandic players have their hands on their heads because they know that was an excellent chance. All it needed was a touch as it was fizzed in to the 6-yard box.
Super delivery, as you'd expect from Gylfi Sigurdsson. Finn Bogason misses it. Yeah, on the 6-yard, but actually comes off his midriff here. Then he holds his head in his hands. He can't believe it. And so Bjarnason at the far post as well wasn't able to get that final touch.
2 minutes of additional time have been signalled. We're a few seconds into that. Finn Bogason on the end of that free kick, but couldn't get the touch he was looking for. He's scored in all of his last 3 appearances for Iceland, although they failed to win any of those games. Good record for Augsburg in the Bundesliga this season as well, 12 in 22 for a side struggling at the wrong end of the table. Defending for Iceland to do now, though, as Victor Moses has it, but is forced backwards from the edge of the area and concedes possession, and Iceland can come forwards on the counter-attack. Finn Bogason on the chase on the left wing. Has to go backwards of square to Gylfi Sigurdsson on the halfway line. Well swept out wide from him for Birgir Sævarsson to advance into space. His ball in is dangerous, and again, there were 2 or 3 blue shirts in there to aim for. Couldn't find any of them.
What a ball from Sævarsson, the right back. Not for the first time. Puts in a tremendous cross. Not too much height on it. Lovely pace, a little bit of whip as well. Nigerian defence, once again, they get ahead to it and just serve to clear from 3 Icelandic players all waiting to make that final touch.
So into the final minute of stoppage time. Gylfi Sigurdsson's corner is very deep. It's headed back across goal and headed just wide by Jon Bödvarsson. That was one of the few occasions where Nigeria have been guilty of not marking their men properly.
First free header in the box for Iceland in the 47th minute. That will disappoint Gernot Royd. Be happy that they've defended so well for so long. And that's one opportunity. But to be honest, I never saw it coming. Some nice, solid, controlled defending so far from Nigeria. They want to block their copybook now, right at the end of the half.
Goal kick will be taken by Francis Zoho, who made a couple of comfortable saves from Gylfi Sigurdsson early on in the game. Those the only real efforts on target of note, and he has to come out quickly here as the header back to him was nearly pounced upon by Jon Bödvarsson, but the whistle goes from Matthew Konga, and it is all square at the break. Nigeria 0, Iceland 0, and neither side really getting going so far, Effort.
No, it's a slow burner. I suppose we had an interesting 5 or 10 minutes to start with, and then both sides probably realising the importance of the occasion, deciding not to overextend themselves. Passing has not been great in the middle of the park, and indeed in the final third. There's been a little bit of rush from Nigeria. 1 or 2 poor decisions been taken, and most of the quality into the box has actually come from Iceland, especially in the last 10 minutes or so. Nigeria, however, defensively so far holding firm.
OK, well, as the Nigerian players go into this traditional pre-half-time huddle, we'll leave you from Volgograd with the half-time scoreline of Nigeria 0, Iceland 0.
Thank you, Mark and Efan. We'll be back with you for the second half of that game, see if either side can breach the other's defence. Peter Odemwingie is here in the studio. After Iceland played Argentina, Lionel Messi complained that Iceland did practically nothing. All they did was defend and attack with nothing but throw-ins. And then Finn Bogason came out and said, well, of course that's what we did. If we'd done anything else, then Argentina would have beaten us. So it would have been a much less pleasant experience. Is that what we're seeing here today? Because it's not exactly a classic between Nigeria and Iceland, but are they playing to their strengths?
Yeah, that's the answer. They're playing to their strengths, because when you have lack of real quality or creative players, that's what you have to rely on. It's like Stoke City maybe at some point. But yes, not that exciting first half. One chance for them with Sigurdsson. So I'm pleased with the performance. Defensively looked good. We have 2 strikers up there, but I think Igalo would have given us a bit more physically, because our 2 boys, Iheanacho and Musa, been pushed off the ball too easy, in my opinion. But it's good to see Mikel trying to get on the ball. He's showing some enthusiasm. So I'm sure second half will be played in a different tempo, and that tempo will suit us, because individually we have better players on the ball than the Iceland team.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask you, because with Nigeria facing Argentina in the last of the group games, is this a game that they'll look at and think, we have to win this one if we want to progress to the knockout stages?
Yes, 100%. They know it will be a difficult game, even with Argentina being down now at the moment and Messi not in the great mood. So they know it's going to be a very difficult one, because over the years we haven't managed to really pick up 3 points from them. So this is the game we need to win. So far we're looking good. The introduction of Kenneth Omeru brings us, that's why, as Mark and Efan mentioned, we're looking really good on set pieces. So I'm less worried, because I've played with him in the last World Cup. Even in training sessions, he doesn't let you really score an easy goal from set pieces. So I'm happy to see them. We're looking good defensively, but obviously we need to score a goal, give some excitement to the fans, because Nigerian players are known to entertain people as well.
Well, maybe we'll see more of that in the second half in Volgograd. At the moment, it's Nigeria 0, Iceland 0. We will return for the second half of that game, remembering the context of it, which is that if Iceland win, they'd only need a draw against Croatia to progress. It's not in Argentina's hands after their defeat by Croatia, but a draw may well be a useful result for Argentina. So depending on who you want to progress from this group, with Croatia at the top with a maximum 6 points, depends on which way you want this game to go. We'll find out which way it will go after the BBC News with Nick Hatfield.
On digital, online, smartphone and tablet, this is BBC 5 Live.
Ministers are trying to reassure businesses they're confident the UK will have a good trade agreement with the EU after Brexit. Airbus, which employs 14,000 people in Britain, says it will have to reconsider its future here if the UK leaves with no deal. Creditors have approved a rescue deal for House of Fraser. They've okayed the company's plan to close 31 of its 59 shops with the loss of up to 6,000 jobs. 3 people have been arrested on suspicion of arson with intent after a fire at a block of flats in Gateshead. 9 people, including 3 children, were rescued by firefighters early this morning. Oil-producing countries in the OPEC group have agreed to increase output by 1 million barrels a day to help cut prices. The organisation has restricted production in the past year, pushing up the cost. And more than 2,000 people have attended a Thanksgiving service at Westminster Abbey to mark the 70th anniversary of the arrival of Caribbean migrants on the Empire Windrush ship. They were among the first people recruited to help rebuild Britain after the Second World War.
This is BBC 5 Live on digital, smart speaker, smartphone and tablet.
A look at the roads. The M6, all traffic being held on the northbound side in Lancashire at junction 31 at Samlesbury. It's to deal with an accident. The M6 in Cheshire heading south, there are queues around junction 19 at Knutsford, down to 18 at Holmes Chapel. The M60 busy anti-clockwise, junction 20 at High Blakely. That's where the vehicle overturned earlier on, so it hasn't recovered. The M1, quite a few breakdowns heading south, junction 34 at Meadowhall, down to 33 at Kirkcliffe. Heavy there, 2 lanes closed to clear a breakdown. Southbound again from the M69 at 21. A lane closed to clear a breakdown there. And northbound queues at 24 at Kegworth, up to 25 at Nottingham. That's another breakdown in the roadwork section. The M4 queues are horrendous today, all the way through on the westbound side from 18 at Bath to the M48 at junction 21. Then from there and the end of the second Severn crossing all the way through to Cardiff westbound again. Traffic heading for Ed Sheeran's concert at the Principality Stadium. And a quick look at the M5 queues, because they're pretty bad. On that southbound side, it's down from the M4 at Almondsbury, 15 to 20 at Clevedon, and northbound queues from 22 at Burnham-on-Sea to 21 Weston-super-Mare. On a Merchant 5 Live Travel.
F1. If you do want to turn the PU down, it'll be HPP 7 at position 8. I'll leave that up to you.
They're still live. Don't need to try and get it space.
So we'd like to hear, mate, you go for it.
No, they're not still waving the checkered flag when it's not done yet. You can see the checkered flag again. Sebastian Vettel wins the Canadian Grand Prix and he takes the championship lead.
Next, the French Grand Prix. Coverage starts from 3 on Sunday afternoon.
F1 on 5 Live.
Live from Russia, this is 5 Live Sport with Kelly Cates.
Good afternoon and welcome to Red Square in Moscow, where we're bringing you coverage of Nigeria against Iceland. That one is goalless at half-time. Earlier, Brazil beat Costa Rica with 2 injury time goals, Coutinho and Neymar on target in the 91st and 97th minute, respectively. And then later on this evening, it's Serbia against Switzerland in Brazil and Costa Rica's group. Costa Rica will not progress to the knockout stages. Serbia and Switzerland hoping that they will. That's 7 o'clock in Kaliningrad for the coverage of that one. Now, though, to Royal Ascot, where there was a brilliant win in the Coronation Stakes. Cornelius Lysett.
The performance of the week, I'd say, by Alpha Centauri, 11-4 favourite, trained in Ireland by Jesse Harrington, ridden by jockey Colm O'Donoghue in the silks of the Niarchos family. She won the Irish 1,000 guineas, and for a filly to build on that success so spectacularly shows quality aplenty. The Newmarket 1,000 guineas winner Bilsden Brook was a well-beaten 4th, and well-touted Clemmy was well-beaten in 5th place as well. The winner won by 6 lengths from Threading in 2nd place, Threading at 7-1, with Voracious at 14-1 in 3rd. And in the process, Alpha Centauri, a first Royal Ascot winner and a first Group 1 race winner in Britain for trainer Jesse Harrington, smashed the course record over the mile by 1.3 seconds.
Cornelius, thank you very much for that. And Novak Djokovic is in action at Queen's with the very latest. Here's Russell Fuller.
Up against Adrian Manarino in the quarter-finals, Kelly, and was a breakdown in the opening set, but came back to win it by 7-5, and he's putting a lot of pressure on the Frenchman's serve early in the second. Currently, Djokovic leading on serve by 2-1. Nick Kyrgios is already into the last 4. He beat defending champion Feliciano Lopez. He'll play Marin Cilic, the top seed in the semi-finals tomorrow. And Dan Evans, who was not awarded a wild card by the All England club for this year's championships, has earned his place in the qualifying competition by coming through the LTA's wild card playoff. He won 2 matches in a day today, first against Marcus Willis and then in 3 sets against Jack Findle-Hawkins.
Russell, thank you. Russell Fuller will keep us up to date with what's happening at Queen's, and you can watch it, of course, on BBC Two as well. Now, England have been training today ahead of Sunday's game against Panama, all apart from Dele Alli, who is now likely to miss the match with injury. Live commentary on 5 Live and BBC One from 1 o'clock on Sunday. But the biggest story coming out of the camp today concerns comments that Gareth Southgate made about the media following the publication by several outlets of a picture of coach Steve Holland holding one possible team lineup for the Panama game. This was Southgate's reaction.
It doesn't bother me in the slightest. There's a squad of 23 names on the sheet. The next sheet has different players in different positions because we swap people in and swap people out, and the stories are then run as they are. So for me, no drama. Obviously, if we were to give the opposition the opportunity of having our team is a disadvantage to us. So, of course, our media have to decide whether they want to help the team or not. But given that was just the squad list, it doesn't make any difference to us, really.
Well, that was Gareth Southgate saying there was no drama, but the media have responded on social media. ESPN's football writer Mark Ogden says, weird comments by Southgate. The media's role is to report, not to help the team. Those not helping the team are the ones who leak it to the media in the first place. And if a coach has it on a piece of paper in front of the cameras, well, ... The BBC's sports editor Dan Rowan joins me now from Repino. Dan, what did you make of it?
Well, I think had Gareth Southgate, Kelly, just stopped when he said he wasn't bothered and that this may not actually be the starting 11, and we don't actually know, of course. It was always couched very much, this story, in terms of it being possible, appearing to give some clues away as to the starting 11. We didn't know for sure. It could have just been notes around the training session, and I think there wouldn't have been too much controversy. But right at the end of the clip you played, you heard him say, didn't you, that it was up to the media to decide whether or not they wanted to help this England team. And I think that inevitably has provoked some reaction because, as you said, many of us in the media don't believe that the role of those covering England is to be cheerleaders or to help them win, rather to report the facts as we see them. Now, this was an open training session. It wasn't behind closed doors. I think had it been filmed surreptitiously, and had it been an invasion of privacy, it would have been an entirely different matter. But, of course, this was during an open training session where there were lots of cameras and film crews, and inevitably, therefore, with the zoom lenses that we have now, those notes became public. So it's sparked this debate, and I think, therefore, there is a question now as to whether the relationship between the England camp and the media, which I have to say has been extremely positive. There's been darts competitions, as you've no doubt seen. There's been bowling competitions between players and sections of the media. There's been tremendous access granted to us, both in the build-up to this tournament and since we arrived here in Repino. I mean, I've covered 4 World Cups, and I can't recall a time when it's been quite so open. Whether or not that will now be affected, or whether perhaps England may reconsider it in light of what's happened. I think that would be a shame if that was the case. So we'll have to wait and see what transpires next. But certainly it has provoked a big debate with both sections of the divide wading in on social media.
Yeah, Carl Walker has backed his manager, as you would expect. He said, if you just keep it to yourself and don't bring it out, because it's not going to help us. All the world's seen that team now, but you guys have to do your little bits. Gary Neville, now, of course, working in the media, but obviously a former England player, said to you in reply to your tweet that it undermines the relationship and trust with the team. There is another take on this, Dan. I mean, obviously the media reporting on England have to be objective and have to report the facts. But as you said, in this tournament in particular, there has been greater access. There has been a greater openness among the England squad. And while purists in the media may suggest that it's just about reporting the facts, is there a quid pro quo here? Is there a sort of, a suggestion that if we give you greater access, we have to be able to trust you not to report stuff that we clearly are trying to keep private? Is that a fair argument?
I think it depends on what it is that's being reported, but certainly I think, as I said, in the case of yesterday, in this day and age where there's so many film crews and photographers at such an event as open training, and in the age of social media where news is reported almost as it happens, I think it would be highly unlikely for something like that not to be reported. And of course, once it appears on one platform, it's very difficult for anybody else in the media just to ignore it or to censor it or to cover it up. It's out there. It has to be reported. We reported it last night on the news at 6 and at 10 too. It's a talking point. What it revealed is there's a possibility that Raheem Sterling's been dropped. That's of interest to people. Therefore, it's news. I think the fact that Steve Holland, according to Kyle Walker, has apologised to the squad and admitted that it was a mistake. Apparently, he said it was the first time in 20 years that he'd made such a mistake. Tells you that they accept. I think the FA realise perhaps that on this occasion it could have been handled slightly better, and maybe they will make greater efforts to ensure such a thing doesn't happen again. I mean, Kelly, you'll have seen players, for example, when they talk to each other on a pitch or even at training these days, they cover their mouths in an attempt to make sure that no one can even lip read what they're saying. So they don't go to great lengths these days not to be reported. It'll be interesting to see whether the dynamic that has been so positive now shifts. I think England have to focus purely on this big match, of course, in Nizhny Novgorod on Sunday against Panama. They'll know by then whether or not a win is enough to take them through to the last 16. There's a huge amount of confidence around this England camp. And as Kyle Walker himself said in a very eloquent press conference, it has to be said today, this relationship with the media has improved immeasurably in recent times. But it is still a work in progress, and it'll be interesting to see how that changes now, if at all.
Dan Rowan, thank you very much for joining us from Repino. We'll be able to hear more from Gareth Southgate, both on this and on how he injured his shoulder. A little bit more detail on that in the World Cup Daily. That's tonight from 9 o'clock. England against Panama is live on 5 Live this Sunday. Coverage from 11 a.m, commentary from 1 p.m, and you can also watch it, of course, on BBC One. Meanwhile, in Volgograd, it's Nigeria 0, Iceland 0 in Group D. We can join our commentary team in just a second, but Peter Odemwingie is here alongside me in the studio. Peter, as we were saying, this is a game that Nigeria will want to go and win. It's also a game that Iceland will want to go and win in order to be able to reach the knockout stages of this competition. If Nigeria are to win it, where's their best chance of a goal going to come from?
One of the wingers doing some magic, Victor Moses. We're expecting that. He naturally showed in Man City. He can score goals. Musa obviously pace. Now we see a change. It's not an offensive one at the moment, but we have Odion Igalo, who's played for Watford, scored lots of goals. So there will be some fresh players brought in, I'm sure, and obviously a few tired legs towards the end of the game. There will be lots of concentration and a few more chances to see.
Well, with news of that change for Nigeria, and to bring you the second half from Volgograd, is your studio-based commentary team of Evan Okoku and Mark Scott.
Thanks very much, Kelly. Yes, Tyrone Ebui is the man who has come on for Nigeria at the interval. Efan alongside me. What do you make of that? Something you expected or a bit of a curveball?
A little bit surprised, actually. I wonder if Edo was picked up a little bit of an injury. We know that he was yellow carded just before half-time. So maybe the coach is a little bit concerned that if he is struggling physically and has been carded, then that's one area that they need to try and firm up, which he has done.
Well, as you can hear, the whistle has gone. The second half is underway. Goalless between Nigeria and Iceland. Such a big game in the group. If Iceland can win it, then just a point from their final game against Croatia would see them through and eliminate Argentina. But they have defending to do here. The first effort on target from the Nigerians. Etebo surging through the centre, letting fly from the edge of the box, and it was gathered by Hannes Aldorsson.
That's a shame. At least a shot on target. The opening seconds of the second half from Otebo travelled a long way unchallenged, just not able to strike that ball cleanly, which is a shame. He'd be disappointed it didn't really test the goalkeeper.
First shot in anger in the second half then is from Nigeria. They have failed to score in 6 of their last 11 World Cup matches. But on the front foot at the start of the second period, they know that defeat today would mean elimination, with games still left to play with Argentina, their final opponents in the group, but victory would move them up to second in Group D. So the stakes are very high for these two, and of course for Argentina, who will be watching with a great deal of interest. On the halfway line with Wilfred Ndidi for Nigeria, and now swept across the back line and picked up by Omeru. Forwards it goes to the half-time substitute who came on, Ibui, replacing Brian Adowu in that left wing-back area. 3 centre-backs for Nigeria today. A change of shape, but not a change in terms of the lack of attacking threat so far from Gernot Rohr's men. Iceland now on the attack with Birkir Sævarsson, who was a very handy outlet for them on the right flank in the first half, but he's run out of pitch here and conceded the throw.
Super crosser of the ball. He's looking to get forward at any opportunity. Doesn't need too much time, actually. Just loves to swing that ball in nice and early. Some great crosses from distance, like 30 or 40 yards away. Right on the money.
So 2 minutes played in the second half. Still goalless between Nigeria and Iceland here on 5 Live and the World Service across Africa. Big weekend of sport for you coming up as well on 5 Live. Over 40 hours across 5 Live and Sports Extra. 6 World Cup commentaries, including, of course, England against Panama on Sunday. The 3rd rugby union test between South Africa and England. The 5th ODI between Australia and England and the French Grand Prix. You can get all the coverage details on the BBC Sport website and app.
Need to go for these 3 points, Mark. If you're looking at second in the group, of course, potential qualification for the round of 16. Roy's team need to show a little bit more adventure in the final third. I get the feeling that he'd almost be happy to take a point today and take the chances in the final game against Argentina. Much rather lose to Argentina than lose to Iceland. The uproar back home in Nigeria will be absolutely massive. It will be anyway if the team is to go out, but they would accept losing to Argentina.
Counter-attack chance here, though, with Moses out the right-hand side. Early ball in towards Musa. Doesn't need him. It's scored by Ahmed Musa. Nigeria have the lead. Plucked it out of the air, brought it down brilliantly, and crashed it beyond Hannes Haldorsen. And after so much talk about how Iceland can hit on the counter-attack, Nigeria, in the blink of an eye, go from one end of the pitch to another, and a super strike by Musa has put the Super Eagles in front. Nigeria 1, Iceland 0.
Well, finally, Nigeria showing some of the attacking ability that we know they have. Super break. There's the speed I was talking about. Ian Atcher involved on the halfway line. Turns unchallenged from the corner. It's a decent ball in from Victor Moses, right to left. The touch from Musa is absolutely sublime. He's almost off balance, facing the wrong way. Cushions it for himself. Brings it down on the half volley and strikes it into the roof of net past the goalkeeper. He's got absolutely no chance from 8 yards out. Super break and a brilliant finish from Ahmed Musa. And there's the Russian-based player. That's a great finish. Iceland undone on the counter.
Well, he's one of only 5 players to have World Cup experience in the squad, one of the older heads. He had a fairly tough time with Leicester City last season, loaned back to CSK in Moscow in January, where he did a lot better, and he's done very well for his nation here to give them the lead. But there's going to be a stoppage in play before we restart as well. I don't quite know how that came about, to be honest, as the Icelandic players congregate around the 6-yard box, and maybe they'll be forced into a change as well. But Gernot Rohr, the German coach of the Nigerian side, looks a much more happy man now. Came about after a lightning-quick counter-attack.
They've got players up there. It's a great head actually on the edge of the box from Kenneth Omero, and there are 3 or 4 Nigerian players already actually almost loitering around the halfway line. And the transfer is quick. Iceland not able to get back. There's the speed of the Nigerian counter-attack and the players for the first time really in full flow. And Musa's actually just cuts across the ball. Certainly hits it cleanly enough.
Well, he also hit the head of Ragnar Sigurdsson, which is now we can see how the centre-back picked up the cut to the head that he's needing some attention for now, just outside the 6-yard box. Long stoppage in play. The blood is gushing from his head. Nothing intentional in it from Musa, who simply had eyes on the ball and eyes for goal. But his knee just caught the back of the big centre-back, Ragnar Sigurdsson. And he's being patched up at the moment, which leads to an impromptu drinks break. And a rare goal for Nigeria has given them the lead. And Ngasson is being ready to come on for Ragnar Sigurdsson, so we are going to see the first Icelandic alteration of the match.
He stepped up to the plate, Ahmed Musa, once again for Nigeria. He was arguably the best player in the World Cup 4 years ago in Brazil. A couple of ball-taking goals against Argentina. And with that speed, you have to be able to show it, especially on the counter-attack. And for the first time, Nigeria actually, showed that they were willing to take a few chances. Didn't quite have as many players back defending as they have done in the opening 45 minutes. And sometimes things will just fall for you when you just take those extra chances. That desire to get forward, as I said, take a few chances. If speed-wise you're able to recover, and then it's always worth the risk. Oh yes, it's the follow-through actually after Musa scores, and then he's actually turning to celebrate. And it's Sigurdsson. He's almost like he's lying on the ground actually, and he gets caught by Musa's knee.
Well, let's find out what Peter Odemwingi's thoughts were on that very well-taken goal from Ahmed Musa.
Well, fantastic goal. This is probably one of the best goals so far in the World Cup. It was a beautiful, cross from Moses, just as we expected. He can make a difference on the wing. He sensed the moment was right to go for it. Musa wins a header, really brave. Gets up right away from his feet, sensing that there is a numerical advantage here, that could be a great counter-attack. It results in a goal, and I'm actually so excited. It's such a beautiful finish. Can't stop watching the replay on and on again.
Thanks very much, Peter Odemwingi, who's in our studio in Moscow watching the game, and no doubt delighted by that fine strike from Ahmed Musa as the ongoing patching up of Ragnar Sigurdsson continues. He's got a very fetching pink bandage that's been wrapped around him. It's not quite Terry Butcher. It's
not yet, anyway. There's no blood on the shoulder, was there? It'll be a little bit harder to see, but we thought he was going to be actually leaving the field, but strong enough to get back on, it seems.
Yep. I'm not sure Terry Butcher would have enjoyed the size of that bandage, or perhaps the colour of it. He's part of our commentary team from 6:30 this evening. We've got one more match for you to come. 7 o'clock kickoff between Serbia and Switzerland. Alistair Bruce Ball and Phil Neville will bring you that one, but as I mentioned, Terry Butcher is part of our team on 5 Live Sport today, and it is a big weekend coming up for you on 5 Live. Over 40 hours across the station and Sports Extra this weekend. 6 World Cup commentaries, which of course includes England-Panama on Sunday, the 3rd Rugby Union test between South Africa and England, Australia against England in the 5th ODI in the cricket, and the French Grand Prix. Get all the details on the coverage on the BBC Sport website and app as well. So 1-0 to Nigeria in Volgograd. Just a touch under 10 minutes gone in the second half, and as things stand, Nigeria would be moving second in the group. They'd be on 3 points behind Croatia, who have 6, and Iceland and Argentina would be level on 1 point, although Iceland would be ahead of Argentina on goal difference as things stand because of the thumping Croatia dished out to Messi and co last night. Here's Gylfi Sigurdsson getting towards the byline, trying to turn things well, and immediately appealing for a handball and turning into the face of Matthew Conga, the referee from New Zealand. He's not interested. I wonder if we might get another look at that with VAR. The play is still going on at the moment. There's not been a pause as yet. Brought forwards from the back by Magnusson for Iceland, who trail Nigeria by a Musa goal to nil. Gylfi Sigurdsson jinking and weaving on the right wing, but showing a bit too much of it in the end to Eboué, and Nigeria have the throw.
We should have a real game now, Mark. We've seen the replay again. Gylfi Sigurdsson trying to come in. You're not going to get handball for that.
Well, you say that, but Poulsen was penalised for Denmark, wasn't he, when there was no real intention in it. The spotlight is on the referee at the moment, and he is saying to get on with the game, so we aren't going to have any kind of review at all. And of course, the officials back in Moscow would have taken a look at it anyway.
No, Tyrone Eboué has actually got his back to the ball. Then he's trying to turn to face Sigurdsson. The ball hits his elbow and bounces down. It's worth a shout, of course, as you would expect from any pro player, especially when you're a goal down. But the game is actually fantastically set up now, isn't it? Iceland will have to come forward looking for that equaliser. Nigeria now have just got to show the same kind of defensive resolve they showed in that first half in the second, and look to play counter-attacking football without sitting too deep, too far back, because Iceland are very good with their set pieces.
It's the voice of former Nigeria international Efe Okuku on 5 Live and the World Service across Africa. Nigeria leading Iceland by 1-0. And the long-range hit comes in from Wilfred Ndidi, and it's tipped over the top by Hannes Haldorsen. Well, that was travelling. It was a bit too close to the goalkeeper either side, and it may have been interesting. Took a deflection on the way through as well off Gislason, which made the save that bit better.
Yeah, it picked up speed, didn't it? It was a good hit anyway from Ndidi. He may have been troubling the goalkeeper. That's some 40 yards or so out. You have to be smart enough, concentration-wise, to tip that one over the bar.
Otobo with a short corner gets it back from Iheanacho, lofts it into the area. Defended well enough by Iceland, but Nigeria certainly on the front foot in this second half. The goal, as you'd expect, has really upped the levels of confidence and the tempo in their play as well. They have to just be a bit watchful. They're not caught out in the counter here, though, with Alfred Finn Bogerson looking for the ball from Bodvarsson. Bodvarsson, though, goes back to Magnusson on halfway. Now Gunnarsson, the Cardiff City man, spraying it out wide nicely to Sævarsson, who's got the cross in. Again, defended well by Nigeria. Gunnarsson picks up the pieces in centre field for Iceland, spins it wide to Magnusson. Early delivery from him is defended well. And
there could be about 10 or 15 minutes of real Nordic steam right now. It's up to Nigeria to really sort of batten down the trenches and make sure, as I said, defensively they, as collective and determined as they were in that opening 45 minutes. And then, of course, it would be difficult for Iceland to maintain that kind of tempo. And what kind of composure can Nigeria show in the next 10 or so minutes when they do get the opportunities to get forward themselves?
They have it on the left side with Horde Magnusson, who's just fired it straight into Victor Moses, and behind for an Iceland corner as the thunderclap starts to be heard at Arena once again. It is a very warm day down there on the pitch, around 31 degrees, and both coaches did mention about that being a factor, but I know, Effen, you didn't necessarily think that that would come into play. I just wonder, with the energy that we're seeing from Nigeria at the start of the second half, if that might be something to bear in mind. It's Gylfi Sigurdsson who will take this corner for Iceland, their set-piece deliverer as ever. He's got 7 men in the area to aim for. It's not a bad delivery as well. Causes some problems and eventually hacked away, I think, by Victor Moses. Iceland have it back on the halfway line with Birkir Sævarsson sending it wide to Rurik Gislason. Gislason closed down quickly by Wilfred Ndidi and has to go backwards to midway inside the Nigeria half. Good turn by Gylfi Sigurdsson just outside the area, and then a foul comes in from Rurik Gislason, who was clumsy in his challenge, and Nigeria have a free kick and just a chance to recalibrate after a period of Icelandic possession.
Yeah, a few moments for Nigeria just to get a little bit of a breather, push their players up, a little bit of a stroll. Seeing the strike again from Wilfred Ndidi. Took a big deflection off Gislason. Didn't alter the direction of the ball, just a little bit more height and more speed. So a decent enough save in the end. You know, it's a great opportunity now for Nigeria, playing against a team who don't like to force the issue. They'll be throwing themselves into a few challenges, and if Nigeria are brave enough to still receive the ball, especially in the middle of the park, this is where the likes of John Obi Mikel are going to be key in the next 10 minutes or so, to demand the ball, to draw people into making a foul against you, and just to slowly make Iceland a little bit more and more frustrated.
Nigeria 1, Iceland 0, with just over an hour played in Volgograd, and Nigeria heading up to second place in Group D, ahead of their final game against Argentina, which would leave them, if my maths is right, needing a point to qualify, because then Iceland wouldn't be able to finish above them by virtue of the head-to-head record.
Got to see this game out, haven't we, Mark? You know, it's a long way to go, and of course it's always very tempting and easy to talk about final game scenarios, but you need to do your job in this second game.
Victor Moses, who played a key part in the goal that separates the sides, has wriggled away in the Iceland penalty area again. He fed it to Kelechi Iheanacho, who was just crowded out in the end.
What a difference a goal makes. All of a sudden, Nigeria stroking the ball about. Everybody wants to receive a little bit more, taking a few more chances in the final third. I said bravery doesn't always involve throwing yourself into challenges and doing defensive work. It's having that courage to take the ball in difficult situations. And now with this, certainly not a gap, but this lead, everybody feels a little bit more keen and able to do that.
Well, they were only behind for about 5 or so minutes against Argentina or Iceland. They hit back pretty quickly. They've rallied before against superior opposition. Can they do so again here? Well, they're going to have a free kick in a promising area after Gislason was brought crunching to the ground by a challenge from Wilfred Ndidi.
And when you reply so quickly, it just means that, you know, that frustration levels, you know, they're not allowed, they don't get the opportunity to build up. 15 or 20 minutes being behind at this level, and it can be very frustrating. So Nigeria so far have held out for longer than that 5 minutes, and the longer you frustrate the opposition, the longer it takes for them to get back on level terms, the more and more desperate they become. Once again, a set piece, some 35, 40 yards out from goal, and Sigurdsson is on the ball. You can never rest.
Yes, Gylfi Sigurdsson, who got 4 goals in qualifying for Iceland, their top scorer during their successful campaign, is poised over it. It is a long way out, as Efan was alluding to. It's slightly right of centre as Sigurdsson looks at it. He's accompanied there by Horde Magnusson, who has got quite a strike on him as well, but it's always likely to be Sigurdsson from this kind of distance. And Sigurdsson goes for the cliff into the area. It's too close to the keeper, though, and gathered very easily by Azohu, who has been, by and large, a spectator in this second half.
He has, and if he's had to deal with anything, he's done so admirably. Nice safe hands once again. Not the best free kick, actually, from Sigurdsson. And did well inside that, or was going to land inside a 6-yard box. And Nigeria able to get themselves up and running again, heading towards the Iceland goal.
Eboué, the substitute, the half-time substitute for Brian Ado, has given it back to Ahmed Musa, the goal scorer. Very nicely taken goal as well. In centre field now with another Leicester man, Wilfred Ndidi, who sends it wide to Victor Moses. It's slowed down to walking pace now. And we mentioned Nigeria's lack of threat or cutting edge going forwards in qualifying. Iceland were the lowest scorers of all of the automatic European sides that qualified, with 16 goals in their 10 games. So not exactly blessed with plenty of firepower themselves, and they'll have to come out of their shells now, as their coach Jaime Hallgrímsson has just instructed them to send the ball out of play. So Ragnar Sigurdsson, who was patched up with that thick pink bandage around his head after being clattered by the knee of Ahmed Musa during the goal that has given Nigeria the lead, is going to have to come off after trying to soldier on for about 5 or so minutes.
He must be shaky. He certainly must be shaky mentally, because physically it doesn't seem to be anything wrong with him moving well enough, but maybe he's experiencing lightheadedness, and of course you don't want to take any chances with the player's health.
So Ingarson is his replacement, like for like, another tall, strapping centre-back who slots into the middle. But it can't be like for like in terms of Iceland's approach to the game. That needs to alter now from the way they went about the match against Argentina. They are trailing to Nigeria, and this would leave them really struggling to qualify for the knockout stages, you would have thought.
They don't need to panic. Many minutes to play.
On the left with Ahmed Musa for Nigeria. About 10 yards outside the box, is offloaded to Kelechi Iheanacho, who spins it to the right side now, and Victor Moses, just a splash of sunshine on him as he goes for goal from a pretty acute angle and fires it over the top of the bar. But perhaps that an indication of the confidence that Nigeria feel right now.
Absolutely. Didn't really get past the defender, did Moses. So took the shot on. We're expecting a teammate to be screaming for that, at least to be fired across goal.
Gunnarsson in the centre circle for Iceland. Sloppy pass from him, can't find Bjarnason, and he's just been very strong in the challenge in centre field there, as Bjarnason knocks it out to the right side of the pitch, and Finn Bogason.
The word for the back three for Nigeria so far this evening in a top-class performance. I think as Peter Odemeghe mentioned at half-time, the extra centre-back bringing in Karen Thomeri, just giving a little bit more stability to the other two guys. They feel a little bit more confident the way they go make challenges, that there's always going to be 2 people behind them. So far, so good.
That's former Nigeria international Efan Akoku on BBC 5 Live and the World Service across Africa. Nigeria with a 1-0 lead midway through the second half against Iceland in Volgograd. We have one more commentary from the World Cup to come for you. Serbia against Switzerland, which kicks off at 7 o'clock. The other game in that group earlier on today finished in dramatic style, with Brazil snatching a 2-0 success against Costa Rica very late on. Neymar went down for a penalty, which was then struck off after a VAR review of the incident. Another game with late drama to add to the long list during this World Cup. Will there be any late drama here? Iceland will be hoping for some, given the way things have gone. Not threatened the Nigerian goal since those early chances for Sigurdsson. Will that change here? Bjarnason was fed Gislason, who made his way to the edge of the area, but with the opportunity to have a strike at goal, he was wasteful and sent it a long way off target.
Well, I was disappointed. Collected the ball superbly well in the middle of the park, and then just ghosted past three Nigerian players appealing for handball just outside the box, and looking to bend it with some power over Francis Uzoho, but it was a couple of yards clear of the crossbar in the end. Actually just reaching a point, Mark, where for the first time actually in a couple of years I'm seeing one or two Icelandic players looking a little bit frustrated. There's so much success, but everything has been buoyant and confident about the way they play, sensing the occasion and what has to be achieved in the next 10 or 15 minutes. And the two players just starting to feel the strain.
Yeah, maybe the tag of favourites is something that they're really not too used to, as Moses charges towards the edge of the area and he's met by a wall of blue blocking his path to goal, crashes his effort against them. But it's Nigeria who are asking all of the questions at the moment, and much different complexion to the game than we had in the first half, where they were wasteful in possession. A lot of the passes were going astray. There's a bit of a strut and a bit of a swagger about them, and certainly a lot more attacking intent. And they're on the attack again here as well. Through the centre with Etebo, and he wastes that opportunity, but so much room afforded to him there in the centre. I don't know where the Icelandic central midfield was.
They went chasing the ball in the final third, and a clever little reverse pass from John Obi Mikel set Nigeria on the way. And use that word wasteful, not for the first time in the last couple of minutes. That time it was Etebo, a couple of minutes earlier it was Victor Moses. When you've got so many players up supporting you, 3 or 4, do not take the waste or not make a wasteful decision, because one poor pass, all of a sudden 4 or 5 you have to then recover. So if anything, get round the back of the defence if you can. If it ends up then being drilled across the goal and out for a corner or throw-in, people have got time once the ball goes dead to get back.
Tyrone Ebui has won a corner kick for Nigeria, just getting Rurik Gislason to slide into the challenge, and he was happy to watch the ball just dribble behind.
Play percentages is the order of the day right now for Nigeria. Low-risk football.
And it's Etebo who has gone across to deliver this corner. It's cleared away to midway inside the Iceland half. Moses on the right wing sends it forwards to John Obi Mikel, who's out on the right. Decent ball in from him, which was met by the centre-back, William Troost-Ekong, and he sent his header wide.
Well wide. It wasn't an easy chance. He's some 10 or so yards out. Diving header. He's something special to beat the goalkeeper. Defender's header, should I say. Could have actually taken that down, controlled it, and maybe tried a shot himself.
Well, it's the Nigerian supporters that we can see who are in high spirits at the moment. Not too many thunderclaps going around the stadium right now, and another change for Iceland. This time it is tactical rather than enforced. Bodvarsson, who has really struggled to make an impact in the game, the Reading forward, replaced by Bjorn Sigurdsson, and that will add a bit more steel going forwards potentially, although they need to get the ball up to them in the first place, because at the moment they're not really being able to find any blue shirts in and around the Nigerian penalty area. And they've won possession back well here, Nigeria, through John Obi Mikel, who's fed Victor Moses. Right wing cross was really, really poor, though. He had Ahmed Musa in all kinds of space on the far side, but couldn't pick him out and has to settle for a corner.
Nothing wrong with a choice, Mark, to try and find Ahmed Musa, the goal scorer. Execution was poor. Fortunately for Nigeria, it was a weak header and ended up going back for another corner to the Super Eagles.
Well, it's all about game management in these types of situations. A goal up with 20 minutes left to play in a crucial World Cup clash. In comes the corner and headed just over the top. Well, Leon Balogun got up ever so well, the new Brighton and Hove Albion man, and his reaction tells you he knows what a glorious chance it was, because he's got his head in his hands.
7 yards out, that was the match right there and then. Completely free header, didn't have to do much actually, just a straight run towards the ball, and he glanced it, didn't really get over it and power that downwards and goalwards. A glorious opportunity for Nigeria to really take a stronger hold and make it 2-0. Not quite an error, but an opportunity, a good more than a half chance that you would expect to be at least testing the goalkeeper.
Well, Iceland look like they're going to be a bit stretched when asking some questions of Nigeria. They've almost been caught out 2 more times on the counter-attack since they conceded a goal on the counter, expertly taken by Ahmed Musa. Nigeria, a goal to the good with 18 minutes of normal time left to play and heading up to second spot in Group D. Croatia would have 6 points, Nigeria on 3, Iceland and Argentina both with 1 apiece, and Iceland ahead of the Argentines on goal difference. And it would leave the final match day very, very intriguing, that game between Nigeria and Argentina in St. Petersburg. Iceland up against Croatia in Rostov. Both those games kick off at 7 o'clock on Tuesday, the 26th of June.
Well, Argentina and Nigeria's bogey team in the World Cup. It's not one that Nigerian fans will be looking forward to with too much excitement. Certainly with hope, but I can imagine a great amount of expectation.
Victor Moses, who's seen plenty of the ball in the second half, a lot more than he did in the first period, out on the right wing, decides against delivering the early cross in favour of keeping possession, and he's got it back now after a neat exchange with John Obi Mikel, and then Iheanacho's effort is charged down on the edge of the area. John Obi Mikel can spin it across the pitch to the left side, and Atebo, who's picked it up well and is closed down by a cluster of blue shirts, offloads to Musa, who hits the bar. Ahmed Musa just a couple of inches too high. The keeper looked like he was beaten, and it crashed back off the frame of the goal. And once again, Nigeria goes so close to surely settling the game.
Brilliant strike from Musa. The key keeper was beaten. I think he was slightly, actually, there was a little bit of bend on that, certainly quite a lot of bend. One of his own players was in the way. He seemed to be gambling, going towards his left. Musa was not too far out, actually, outside the penalty area, 20 yards. Cannon's back off the crossbar.
Well, Nigeria have had more attacking threat than you've seen for a long time today, and they could have a second here. Surely they will. It's going to be fired in by Ahmed Musa. His second of the game. Nigeria's second of the game. And surely it's a first win of the 2018 World Cup for the Super Eagles as well. A super finish once more from Musa. 2-0 the scoreline.
What a finish from Ahmed Musa. Starman in the last World Cup. Once again, he stepped up, the little number 7. He's just outdone Iceland with pace on that left flank. Wasn't disappointed at all by that effort. That cannon back off the crossbar a few moments earlier. Great play from Nigeria on the near side. It's actually poor defending as well. One-on-one against the centre-half. Too much speed. And then the composure, the skill to get around the goalkeeper. Kept his head. Takes an extra touch as required. And side-foots it into the roof of the net. Surely now the Super Eagles are flying into that last match with Argentina with a great chance to get to the round of 16. That's a great finish from Musa. Brilliant play. Kept the score. Iheanacho wants the ball. He's not going to get it past there. There's goal number 2 for the number 7. Well within his rights to take that on. And in the end, not a straightforward finish. Once he's past the goalkeeper, 2 outstanding plays on the line. 2-0.
Well, he's winning his 70th cap despite only being 25 years of age. He said that he thinks that Nigeria can reach the semi-finals, as it doesn't matter who they come up against. Confidence in terms of his statements and confidence with his finishing today as well. 2 goals from Ahmed Musa has given Nigeria a 2-0 lead against Iceland, and we have less than a quarter of an hour remaining. And given that they have not troubled Francis Uzo in the Nigerian goal in the entirety of this second half, you can't see a way back for Iceland, and you can see the Nigerian fans starting to thunderclap.
And I can, yeah, and I can see a hat-trick for Ahmed Musa. When these defensively minded teams, when they are forced to get on the offense, it's so much more difficult for them. And when things don't go their way after 5 or 10 minutes, for them to maintain that belief that they can carve out the opportunities we've seen today with Iceland, it becomes more and more difficult for them. And Nigeria have picked them off superbly so far in the second half.
Well, the Nigeria coach, Gernot Ruhr, said that he wasn't worried coming into this game about his job prospects because he was sure they wouldn't lose. Well, they're definitely not going to lose, and they're almost certainly going to win. He was very bullish after they copped a fair amount of flack from that Croatia game. And you just wonder if that helped to stir them into action today, because it has been a stirring second half showing from Nigeria.
Yeah, it's been one full of confidence, belief in what they're doing. Of course, the goal will help. That brings out the true potential of the side. Musa got around the back of Severson. Anderson, the number 14, big central defender. Once Musa's control was tight and he was able to get his body across him, there was no stopping him. And then it was to do the hard part, get around the goalkeeper, and the finishing stroke. Nigerian fans joyous, that goal number 2.
And they've only won 1 of their last 13 games at the World Cup, Nigeria, losing 9 of them. Here is Etebo getting towards the byline for Nigeria and winning a corner out of Rurik Gislason. And at the moment, it is one-way traffic.
Great belief in the Nigerian team right now. I wouldn't say that the Icelandic heads have dropped. Certainly they're looking shorter and shorter. An idea is a question of Nigeria just seeing out the game in terms of concentration. At the moment, looking for goal number 3.
In it goes from Etebo, and cleared away as far as the edge of the area. Etebo's waiting for it on the left wing again. Musa plays it forwards again. 2-goal Ahmed Musa. Both very nicely taken as well. Ndidi, another Leicester City man, is on the charge. Just runs into a bit of traffic, though. There's pause from the Icelandic players as they were waiting for a foul to be awarded the way of Bjarnason, which it wasn't. So Nigeria still have it. And they just need to be sensible now with only 10 or so minutes left to play. But they're hungry.
Yeah, looking for that 3rd goal, Mark, which is great, but I just want to see more and more unselfish play from Nigeria. Keep the ball moving, keep Iceland chasing, trying to retrieve it as close to their own goal as possible. There'll be a chance to make it 3-0.
Sigurdsson trying to make things happen, and of all people, Sarvarsson has got forwards for Iceland. They're asking for a penalty now as well after Finn Bogason went down. The referee has said goal kick for now, I think, has he?
Well, that's a silly challenge.
It's a risky challenge.
Aboué is the guilty man. Who's a little bit of indecisiveness between himself and Omeruwa.
I think that's a penalty, looking at the replay there.
It does look like one. Yeah, it does look like a penalty.
Well, at the moment, it's a goal kick. And the referee now has been told he might want to take a look at this. And I think when Matthew Conga, the New Zealand official, goes across to have a look at the screen by the halfway line,
it's going to be a penalty.
He will decide to award a spot kick to Iceland and give us a grandstand finish. So Matthew Conga, after advice from the VAR control room, has gone across to that screen, which you will have seen plenty of times in action. We saw it used to good effect earlier on when Neymar went down looking for a penalty, which was initially given, but on review the referee changed his mind because it was a clear dive by Neymar. This time he didn't award the penalty after Finn Bogason went down, but it looked as though Eboué had clipped him, and we are expecting, when he's looked at it, to award a penalty. And he's had a look at it and says penalty as expected. And I don't think that Tyrone Eboué or Nigeria can have any complaints about that.
No, they've been punished for sloppy defensive play, lack of concentration. First of all, Kenneth Omoru's got the opportunity to actually clear his lines properly, and then there's no determined effort from Eboué to get it across the face of the Norwegian player. If he does, and even if it's a 50-50 challenge, shoulder to shoulder, 9 times out of 10 the defenders will get that pointed going forward.
I'll tell you how confident Gylfi Sigurdsson was that was a penalty. He was already stood on the penalty spot when the referee went to have a look at the review. So when the award was made, Sigurdsson was in place already with the ball down, and he was just waiting for the confirmation that he knew was coming. So Francis Azo, the 19-year-old goalkeeper for Nigeria, trying his best, as you see goalkeepers always trying to do, to get inside the head of the taker. Of course, famously, the Icelandic goalkeeper Hal Dawson saved from Lionel Messi in Iceland's opening group game. Can Gylfi Sigurdsson give Iceland hope with 8 or so minutes of normal time left to play? The pressure on Gylfi Sigurdsson. It's going to be a short run-up from the Everton man. Only a few steps. Composes himself, and Sigurdsson sent it over the top. It's a horrific penalty from Gylfi Sigurdsson, well over the crossbar, and as the ball disappears into the stands, surely Iceland's hopes of getting anything from the game disappear as well.
Wow, I did not see that coming from Gylfi Sigurdsson. I was actually thinking, which way is he going to send this? I've seen him place him to the right, the goalkeeper's left. In the end, he goes to the left. But more importantly, for everybody concerned, both Nigerians and Icelanders, that one sails over the crossbar. What a great opportunity to get his nation back into the game. Not taken. Surely that's the last chance.
Iceland's key man, their superstar, their poster boy, Gylfi Sigurdsson, sends a penalty over the top, and perhaps has a bit of a feeling of how Lionel Messi might have been feeling after the opening game between Argentina and Iceland. They would have still been a goal behind, but they would have had hope, and it remains 2-0 to Nigeria.
It would have led to a nerve-wracking last 7 or 8 minutes. So what a way to deflate your team and a whole nation.
Gylfi Sigurdsson missing a penalty, sending it over the bar, which means the 2 Ahmed Musa goals have Nigeria still 2-0 in front, and Musa on a hat-trick, charging towards the edge of the penalty area, left-hand side of it, offloaded for the hit from distance, I think by Kelechi Iheanacho, that just drifts wide of the post.
Disappointing finish for me, Iheanacho. He struggled really to get himself involved in the game at all in the second half. Don't blame him for taking on the shot, but deceived the goalkeeper. He's moving to his right, plays to the left. That's actually his last action of tonight's game.
Yeah, Kelechi Iheanacho is being withdrawn, and Odion Igalo, who has dropped to the bench today, the former Watford striker, who has had a wretched scoring run for Nigeria. He's failed to score in his last 7 games for his country, having had a pretty good record when he was playing up front for Watford in the Premier League. He is on for Kelechi Iheanacho, but it's not about attacking now for Nigeria, simply defending what they've got with a shade over 5 minutes remaining, and the Super Eagles leading by 2-0.
Well, no bad thing actually to have fresh legs in the final third. The impetus and the force has been with Nigeria for all of the second half. We can maintain that speed and ability to keep pressing Iceland backwards, and of course there will be more opportunities. And Igalo tends to play a lot better when he has that forward alongside him, preferably a more physical presence. But with Nigeria in a very comfortable position, it's an opportunity to get another striker involved, an opportunity to get himself a goal and to raise the confidence of the team even more so going forward in the final third.
Nigerian fans with their own take on the thunderclap. It's a slightly quicker and more energetic version of the Icelandic edition, shall we say.
A bit more rhythmic, you'd say, as well. A few hips swaying.
I can just imagine you performing it, Efan, and performing it superbly, I'm sure. The backline for Nigeria have performed pretty superbly. The 3-man centre-back lineup that the coach decided to go with today, Gernot Röhr shuffling his pack. They've looked composed and measured. I wonder if he'll stick with that for the game against Argentina. Defending to do here for not just the trio of centre-backs, but all of the Nigerian backline, and they've got 7 men back behind the ball to defend this, so when Sarversen's cross comes in, it's easily cleared away, and now it's picked up by Odion Igalo, and he just needs to be sensible here and keep the ball, which he does, and plays it just over halfway to Taro Nabui, who'll be a relieved man, having conceded the penalty for the challenge on Finn Bogason, and now Igalo with a quick turn of pace to get away from his man. He's into the area, the angle was tight and he overran the ball, and Hannes Haldorsen came scampering out to smother at his feet.
Well, that was a good chance just to try and cut across the defender, just as Ahmed Musa did for the second goal. A little bit sluggish there, Odion Igalo, and also the touch, especially the second one, was just that little bit too heavy.
It's going to be a third and final change for Iceland, and Skulason for the skipper Aron Gunnarsson, who kicks a bottle in frustration as he makes his way off the pitch and then utters a few unmentionables to the sky. His captain's armband transferred to Gylfi Sigurdsson, who will be desperate to make amends in Iceland's final group game. They won't be out of it. They will be reliant, though, on other results, namely Nigeria's against Argentina. The table will show Croatia on 6 points, Nigeria on 3, Iceland and Argentina both on 1, unless there could be a comeback here, and it's a fizz shot low from 6 yards out by Alfred Finn Bogason, which was parried by Francis Azou. And again, promising position, but not much conviction about the finish, as we saw from Sigurdsson in the first half.
It was a wide angle. The pass was just actually a little bit overhit for him. Wasn't there smart goalkeeping actually from Francis Azou? Should have been really wrapping that one up. Nigeria were able to clean things up in the end. Once again, the back three, somebody always there to tidy up any kind of mess. To be honest, they defended the second ball superbly well, Nigeria's. As good a defensive display actually as I've seen in the World Cup, or indeed even Nations Cup level, Nigeria for many a year.
But I make that the first effort on target that we've seen from Iceland in the second half, because obviously Sigurdsson put his penalty over the top of the bar, which says a lot about Iceland going forwards, but also, as you mentioned, Nigeria's backline. And Nigeria's forward line now looking to add to the scoreline. Ahmed Musa hunting around outside the penalty area, but the rebound favours Iceland, and the ball finds Haldorsen, who smashes his clearance up towards the halfway line. It's going to come back with interest, though. Wilfred Ndidi on the charge and letting fly from about 25 yards out, straight into Ingersson, though, and Iceland have defending to do again. Victor Moses on the right wing, and they just need to be sensible here, keep possession. That's exactly what they're doing, going nowhere fast. Nigeria on the halfway line, and John Obi Mikel sends it all the way back to the goalkeeper, and Azou will smash this away, putting his boot firmly behind it.
I think I can now look ahead, Mark, to the final game, Nigeria against Argentina, with Nigeria being in that advantageous position where Argentina desperate to rescue what's been a poor World Cup so far, needing to really force the issue. And that will give Nigeria the opportunity to play counter-attacking football, as they can do pretty well. They have done in the second half. In fact, they've dominated proceedings, not had to be so effective on the counter. And a real occasion awaits Gurno Rohr and the Super Eagles.
Well, they face Argentina in St. Petersburg on Tuesday the 26th at 7 o'clock. Obviously, the Iceland-Croatia game in Rostov kicks off at the same time. Iceland did beat Croatia en route to topping their qualifying group, so they have that to give them some belief going into that one. And Nigeria also beat Argentina in a friendly in November as well, which is something they can latch on to as they make another change, solely to run down the clock here, you would have thought. And the man going off is Tebo, and the man coming on is Iwobi, who was left out of the starting lineup today, but comes on for a late cameo.
A good performance from Tebo in the middle of the park. Unsung heroes, really. Not mentioned him too often, himself and Obi Mikel. Indeed, he's probably the one who's seen more of the ball. I think certainly been more effective going forward and supported the front players pretty well so far this evening.
Well, this game has still 6 minutes left to play of stoppage time now that we have just entered. So 6 minutes of stoppage time. Nigeria leading by 2-0, and this will move them on to 3 points in Group D, and will leave Iceland and Argentina on 1 point each. Argentina will still be bottom of the group on goal difference, because Iceland's is -2 and theirs is -3. And Nigeria, of course, in second place, Croatia top of the lot. Nigeria's fate in their own hands then.
This was always a group, Mark. Once I saw the draw, that I thought that anything could happen. I thought Argentina could win the group. But never saw them finish it. They've not finished bottom, of course, and they may not do. You know, I could have seen Iceland upsetting one or two. They've already taken points off Argentina. No doubt there'll be one or two final twists in the last couple of games in a few days' time. But nothing really is what I'm trying to say is would surprise me as an outcome of these matches.
On the left-hand side for Nigeria with Abui, the man who conceded the penalty missed by Gylfi Sigurdsson late on, sent it high over the top of the crossbar when the score was 2-0 to Nigeria. That would have set up a real helter-skelter finish. So if Nigeria in their final game against Iceland come away with a point, against Argentina, they will go through, because Iceland would only be able to get to 4 points themselves, and by virtue of the head-to-head record, Nigeria would finish above them. So a point would do against Argentina, whereas Argentina have to win that one to have any chance whatsoever, and then it's down to whether or not Iceland can beat Croatia, and goal difference could come into play there. So plenty of abacuses to get out. The thing that Nigeria need to be concerned about is that a point against Argentina would send them through to the knockout stage. If they can hold on here with only 3 minutes of stoppage time to play and a 2-0 advantage against Iceland, and Victor Moses back in his own area by the penalty spot, just smashes away a speculative clearance.
John Obi Mikel just limping away from that last attack from Iceland. I hope he's not pulled his hamstring, seems to be holding the back of his leg. A clean sheet as well, I think, Mark, as well, would be a just reward for what's been a good defensive play from Nigeria. Well marshalled from Ndidi and Mikel in particular. As I've already mentioned, I've given him a special mention of back three. Trustekon, Balogun and Kenneth Omero, and the goalkeeper as well. There's not too much to do. In fact, pretty much nothing in the second half. All round, I think Gunnar Rowe will be very, very happy with the way he started his play today.
Well, John Obi Mikel is down, and it's that classic cramp that always seems to strike the team in front when we're in stoppage time, which is going to eat up a few more seconds. Gives me a chance to tell you about a huge weekend of sport that we have for you. Over 40 hours of live action across 5 Live and Sports Extra this weekend. 6 World Cup commentaries, with one of them, of course, England against Panama on Sunday. Also the 3rd Rugby Union Test between South Africa and England. The 5th ODI between Australia and England, as well as the French Grand Prix. All of the details and the coverage can be found on the BBC Sport website and app. And we're not done for you on Friday yet either. We have one more World Cup commentary to come for you. At 7 o'clock, it's Serbia against Switzerland. Alistair Bruce-Bull and Phil Neville will bring you all the action from that. And of course, your World Cup updates come courtesy of the World Cup Daily podcast, which is still neck and neck with Love Island at the top of the podcast charts. You can help edge it ahead by subscribing. Today's one featured the reaction of Pablo Zabaleta to Argentina's capitulation to Croatia, as John Obi Mikel just hobbles off the pitch, and play is about to be restarted. But having hobbled off, he's now quickly asking to be able to come back on.
He was holding his hand, actually, as he went off on the far side as he played the ball to Victor Moses. And he went down as if he was holding the back of his leg. Seems to be struggling a bit with the back of his leg. Still holding his wrist, John Obi Mikel. Not sure where he would have picked up that injury.
So just to reiterate that a point would be good enough in the final game for Nigeria against Argentina to send them through and send Argentina out, of course. If Argentina win that one, as they have to, they would still be dependent on what happens between Iceland and Croatia in the other final game in Group D. So both matches with a huge amount riding on them, and both of those fixtures on Tuesday the 26th at 7 o'clock.
Which is just the way we like it, isn't it? Going into the last game.
We don't like dead rubbers, do we?
Of course, I know. So to have 4 teams still believing that they can get through to the round of 16 is fantastic.
And Nigeria are believing that they can add to the scoreline here with Odin Igalo holding the ball up inside the penalty area. And now it's Iwobi trying to shape to get the shot in, just charged down in the end and away for a throw to Nigeria. But we have played the 6 minutes of stoppage time now, so it is just a case of getting the ball back into play and the whistle going. Some very, very stern faces amongst the Iceland players. They knew this was a really good opportunity for them, one that hasn't been taken, but one that has been fully grasped by Nigeria. They have won by 2 goals to 0, and it means that a point would be enough in their final game to send the Super Eagles through to the knockout stage. Huge celebrations from the Nigerians, and their second half performance fully merited it.
Absolutely no question, Mark. The brilliant display today from the Super Eagles. They finally landed a super show in the second half, especially from Mohamed Musa. Great composure, speed, technique, and that confidence about himself to finish, to really put Iceland to the sword. They played well in the first half, weren't able to match Nigeria, the intensity, the speed of the counter-attack especially, and the skill and technique in the final third. And when you're not able to trouble the Nigerian goalkeeper throughout that second 45 minutes, then you can't really have too many complaints. As we said a few moments earlier, all points to a fantastic final day. Nigeria finally arrived at the tournament. Africa has another team that potentially looks as if it'll go through, along with Senegal, if they get a good result in their second game. So I'm pleased for all the Super Eagles fans all over the world, and we roll on to the final game.
Ahmed Musa too hot to handle for the Icemen. The Leicester man's double, giving us the full-time score of Nigeria 2, Iceland 0.
Mark Scott, Efan Ekoku, thank you very much for bringing us that. In Volgograd then, Nigeria 2-0 winners against Iceland. And as Mark was saying, a draw would effectively be enough for Nigeria against Argentina on Tuesday the 26th of June. That's because if Nigeria get a point against Argentina, Iceland would need to beat Croatia by 3 goals. Those games will be played simultaneously on Tuesday the 26th of June. It is all very nicely set up, and you'll be able to hear it here on 5 Live Sport. Efan Ekoku saying he was pleased for Super Eagles fans all over the world, including one who's sitting here in our studio in Red Square, Peter Odemwingie. What did you make of that, Peter?
Well, I'm even more pleased because I gave it 2-0. That was my call yesterday in a bar.
You don't need to make it all about you, Peter.
And today again. So, I believed in them because actually many people had doubts. So now I think, we've, let's say, dissolved all those question marks because we didn't play up to our potential, obviously, in the first game. We have different options. Our players gave their best, in terms of, running around. Everything was perfect. We just didn't use our good players in the right positions. Today we saw it. Mikel did lead, as a leader, but where he's more effective. Same with Moses, so he felt more comfortable. This is what he's been doing for 2 years. And then, of course, we knew the rest. Musa and Iheanacho, they are fast players who can score goals. So, yeah, really pleased today. 1 point against Argentina. With this performance, I think we can do that. Probably even look at winning finally, because we always look at that shirt of Argentina. Then we will say there is Messi, and then, we get scared. This time around, we need to know that we can win them and confidently walk into the playoffs.
Super Eagles fans then here in Moscow, in Volgograd, watching the game between Nigeria and Iceland. In Nigeria, of course, and in Salford, Dotun Adebayo. Good evening.
Kelly, hello. Hello to the entire world from Nigeria. Thank you. We are very delighted. We are happy. Thank you. Thank you.
Dotun, I believe your celebrations in the offices have been something to behold.
I was just, I lost it for a moment. Genuinely, I've been through the mill of